Hello, and today I want to talk about how depression and weight gain or weight loss are linked. When we're looking to understand certain human behaviours, sometimes it's helpful to go back into the past. Now, I don't mean our own childhood, although hold that thought because much of what we learn as a child will influence our behaviour as an adult. No, what I'm talking about is way, way, way back in the past, several 100,000 years ago, in fact. Our primitive ancestors lived through a repetitive cycle of feast and famine. During times of plenty, they would fill their bellies, eating as much fat as possible to put on weight and reserves to prepare them for the famine that inevitably followed. When famine arrived, their bodies would go into fight or flight and their metabolisms would slow down to hang on to as much energy in the way of fat as possible to last them until feast arrived again. So we are pre-programmed for the feast-famine cycle. However, in these times of modern plenty, we don't get too much of the famine. Food is all around us and our cupboards are often stocked. So we get stuck in the feast cycle instead. Now, the difference between our primitive ancestors and us in the 21st century is lifestyle. We still have that primitive blueprint which controls our physiology. Today, however, our basic needs are mostly taken care of, safety and shelter. So generally, we are not operating in the survival mode our ancestors had to. It's not quite as dangerous to obtain our food as it was back then. But when we think in a negative way, negatively introspecting about our lives, ourselves, or the past, which people do when they have depression, our brain doesn't understand the difference between a dangerous situation, for example, being isolated from the tribe, and a modern day problem of us thinking life is hard and I can't cope, or we've had an argument. It interprets it all as crisis, emergency or danger, and our primitive fight-flight response part of the brain steps in to take control. And when it does, it behaves in a particular way. It takes everything to the worst possible scenario. It catastrophizes. It obsesses about things. It won't let you forget about problems, just as it would behave if a dangerous saber-toothed tiger were prowling around outside your cave. Furthermore, it will think in terms of all or nothing and make everything about you. It will hijack your imagination, telling you other people are thinking negatively about you, and it will encourage you to withdraw into your cave and push the world away. As you withdraw and do less and less of the things that you need to and that make you happy, slowing your serotonin and the levels will drop. Serotonin is a vital neurotransmitter that helps you cope with life. It makes you happy, it motivates you, it makes you braver, it helps you cope with physical fear, it helps you cope with pain, it boosts your immune system. But most importantly, it is also the off switch for your appetite. So now you find yourself in the fight or flight mode, activating the primitive part of your brain that wants to feast or famine with food all around you, but without the off switch for your appetite. And what's more, sugar is a serotonin substitute. It temporarily makes you feel better and gives you a small boost of energy, but it's only a substitute and it doesn't have the same positive qualities as the real thing. And this is why depression and weight gain or loss are so frequently linked. As you think negatively, you activate the primitive part of your brain that wants to feast or famine without an off switch for your appetite. So, how do you turn it around, lose weight naturally and come out of depression? You produce more serotonin. Everyone has the ability to increase their serotonin levels. How you think determines how you feel, and how you feel determines how you behave and what you can or can't do. It all starts with the way you think. And you making the decision to do something about it, then producing serotonin falls into three major categories. Positive activity, especially any physical activity. Exercise does amazing things for the brain. It's not about the body at all. Exercise burns off adrenaline, which you're producing far too much of, and activating the fight or flight response system. And it also produces the serotonin, which helps you cope with anything, makes you braver, and gives you the confidence and makes you feel good and happy. Positive interaction is the next one. Spending time with people you enjoy spending time with will produce serotonin. Being too isolated only gives you more time to think negatively and to worry. And being in person to person, with people, is important. Social media and technology, although good for keeping in contact, is something that causes anxiety. It doesn't help. And lastly, positive thinking. Focusing on the good things in your life and turning what you tell yourself you can't do into I can and I will. So I hope that explains a bit about how weight gain in particular and depression are linked. They are both caused by the same thing, low serotonin levels. You increase your serotonin levels and you'll start to turn both around.